All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I am here with the amazing and talented Heidi. She is one of the, oh my gosh, like one of the top trainers, I think, in our country for hunter saddle, for hunter jumpers. So let's just start out. Let's get a little information, give a little introduction of all the things you've done, how long you've been doing it, to all of our viewers.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for having me on. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I started competing and training in the hunter jumper world really seriously back in 1990. So I'm going to age myself a little bit now. But what I realized when I started to compete very seriously was I had to get really good really fast. And so I didn't have years and years of being a pony kid and all those fun things that normally people do have. I was a gymnast, and then they told me I was too tall. And I was like, well, then I need to go find another sport. And my mom she had given me riding lessons one summer when I was 10. And at that point, she was like, you have to decide, are you going to ride horses or are you going to do gymnastics? And since I'd already committed so much of my life at that point to gymnastics, I chose gymnastics. And then I think it was a year or two later that gymnastics unchose me. And I had to find a new sport. And I was like, well, I love that horse thing. And they said I was good at it. So I'm going to try it again. It's amazing that little tiny seed of trying something led to a professional riding career. I competed all throughout college, braided horses at night to help pay for me to have horses to show in college, and just really learned how to kind of dig deep and get really good and really focused. And so I have competed all the way up to the international derbies and some lower Grand Prix. I qualified my international derby horse for the $100,000 international derby finals back in 2013, 2014. And I did not end up going. I ended up leasing him out that year. So almost every time I qualified for something big, like some big final championship, I would end up leasing my horse out and making a financial decision about what to do next, instead of being like, I'm going. Mostly because the horses that I qualified for the top finals were my own horses. And, we all know that it's important to make smart business decisions too when you own the horse farm. It's a little different if you're not paying the mortgage every month, but when you own the horse farm, you have to make really smart decisions. I did have an amazing horse named Gorgeous George, who's still at my farm even now. And he was the National Reserve champion for Silver Stirrup, which in the conformation division. And I can't even tell you what year that was, but it was, I think 6 or 7 years ago. So that was pretty awesome. And then I've been the top pony trainer for the World Championship Hunter Rider 2 different years in a row as well. So it's been a crazy, amazing way to make a living. Not the easiest way for sure, which, you've done horses. So, it's very early mornings and very late nights. And even when you have a complete team of people, which I am blessed enough to have to work with, it's still, what I always tell people is because I'm the one in charge, it all rolls down to me. So if anybody makes a mistake, it's my problem. It's my fault. I've got to be the one to fix it and be the one to solve all the problems. So it adds a bunch of different challenges that way, on top of being the rider and the trainer and the coach and the team manager and all of those things. But it's a labor of love, right? We just love what we do.
Completely. Like it consumes your life, but it's so rewarding to be able to do that. And I think it's amazing that you're able to do this as your career and make a career out of it. I mean, you would think I had a career in it, but I'm not. It's my hobby, like the most expensive hobby I think a person could have. And yes, it takes all your time. And you have done some amazing things in your career. And I know this year you've already started off kicking butt down in California. So I'm excited to see how this year continues for you and how your future is so bright still, So let's just say you're still 25 and you're still going to be kicking butt for the next 50 years in the jumping world. one thing that I think is super important, and I think you have a lot of knowledge in, is how do we keep these horses going, right? Like, how do we keep a horse to last longer? I know in the stock horse world, so many horses start out at 2, 3, and they're done by the time they're 7 years old. They're crippled. And I'm assuming in the jumping world, it's a little bit later, but they probably still, some of them don't have as long of a life. So how is it that you've been able to keep your horses going and be able to have a long, successful career?
That's a great question. Yes, in the hunter jumper world, we do start our horses a little bit later. We're not quite as aggressive with the riding when they're that young and they're developing still. But jumping a horse isn't necessarily a normal thing for an animal to do with 4 legs. They certainly do like to jump themselves. Like if you turn them out in the ring, they will run around and jump on their own. But it's not a normal action for their body and their joints. And so when it comes to maintaining them, one of the things that I keep in mind is a horse is a little bit like a car. They only have so many jumps over their lifetime. So you don't want to be wasting those jumps practicing and practicing and practicing every single day. You want to make sure that you have a consistent schedule with them and that their fitness level is really good and solid, that you're riding on the flat at least 2 or 3 days a week, and then smaller jumps or pull exercises a couple of days, and then 1 day of coursing. What people don't realize is the Olympic horses, they don't jump every single week. Even sometimes they'll just jump in their big class and maybe a warm-up class, and then they'll take a week off or 2 weeks off and just hack and flat work. So a lot of things go into that. You have to have the best veterinarian care. You have to have the best farrier. You have to have a good body work team. When it comes to the inside of horses on the inside are just like us people, right? You know, we feed them the most premium food we can get them. We feed them the most, I have this like little hair fluff. Oh, it's a, sorry. One of the feathers from my feather jacket just blew off. But we feed them the most amazing food, right? So we spend all this money to get them the best hay, the best supplements, the best grain. I make sure that, you know, we're doing regularly monthly checkups on them to make sure that they're staying sound. And what else can we do to maintain them and help them last longer so that they're more comfortable? Because we all know that horses will kind of hold back. A lot of them will hold back and they'll be really tough and they'll just keep persevering. And then before you know it, you have a horse and you're like, well, what happened? All of a sudden it just doesn't look good. And so I find if we stay really consistent with their work schedule, with their supplements, I used to use some different supplements. And now I use, I do love Summit on my horses. It's absolutely amazing. It's been a huge game changer for us. And it's easy to work with. And so I do that. I love my Purina feeds. It's making sure that their gut health is on point is big. Here in the Northwest, we get a lot of water. So we're always having to really care for their feet and make sure their feet are picked out, that they're not getting threshed. There's just so many things. And it's like you're juggling a lot of balls, right? Trying to keep all the glass balls in the air so that they last as long as they possibly can. And George has been a really good example. The Gorgeous George horse is, you know, back when he was winning all of his big jumps, and I mean, he was jumping the 4 foot, when he was winning all those big jumps, that was kind of between his 8, 9, and 10-year-old years. And now that he's 15, I mean, he's older now. And so we're lowering his level of jumping, but he's still staying sound. He's still staying consistent. And that's really what you want to do, is you want to make sure that you're listening to your animal and you're adjusting what they can and can't do as they progress in age.
Yeah, that's amazing information, because it's so true, right? Like, as humans, even we have to take care of our guts and our joints and stuff, and that's all starting inside. That's not necessarily rehab and stuff outside. I mean, I know when I go play volleyball, I don't like to over jump because I'm like, I might only have 5 really good jumps anymore, guys. So why waste them? Similar to the horse, right? And just taking care of that. And it's so crucial. And I think a lot of people just think throw them some alfalfa hay or some grass hay, ride them as hard as we want, and that's it, not realizing there's so much to a horse but they need so much extra to keep, they got to lube up those joints. They got to rebuild their muscles and re-strengthen those tendons. I mean, there's so much, for real.
Yes.
It's amazing. When you've had a horse injured, what have you felt is something that you focus on more? Is it just rehab, or do you give a little extra supplements when a horse, say they injure a stifle or pull a ligament, anything like that, or they're just recovering, they were silly and ran through a fence, some of them are a little crazy like that. So what are some things that
Right. No, I mean, for sure, horses can find just about anything to injure themselves on. It's a unique animal because they have the eyes on the side of their head. So our eyes are in the front of our head, so we are predators. Their eyes are on the side of their head, so they're prey. So it could be just the littlest thing that sets a horse off, and suddenly it's going through a fence, or it's making a bad choice and it gets injured. Or even if you do everything right and everything's right, sometimes they still can take a wrong step, just like you and I. Like, we can step outside of our front door and twist an ankle. They can do the exact same thing. So when I'm dealing with an injury situation, I work really closely with the veterinarians. I work really closely with my farriers. I make sure that we're all on the same page because it's really a team effort. And then I also make sure that I do increase the supplements because, of course, when you're injured or when you're hurt or when you're in pain, your body is it's not utilizing all the things that it needs to be. It needs like extra help, extra support, extra relief. And especially when you're talking about like inflammation, because if the body's already in pain, the inflammation markers are going to be high. You got to get those back down so the body can actually heal instead of working on like attacking itself and feeling better. So I absolutely increase whatever supplementation that we are doing at that time.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, I obviously, when I say run through a fence, my one horse did that last year. And it is amazing how I put him on some supplements and then I put him on the Summit, and like just how it helps it heal, helped it, like, I mean, he was a mess and it has really helped him. And I give a lot to him recovering the way he did with little or no even scar tissue to supplements and then some of the other added stuff that I did. But it is so important and you don't realize it. Like, I know, I've grown up, if my mom was here, she'd say, you were born on a horse. So like, I've been around horses since I was basically born, and you don't ever think about that, right? And then you have a huge injury and then you've got to start learning this stuff. And it's just, it never dawned on me how important. It's not just what they look like on the outside, but we have to focus so much on that inside to even keep them around. If you are somebody watching this and you just have a horse in your backyard out in your pasture and you just like to go jump on it and go ride down the bike trail, what are things that horse probably needs? Something like, what do you suggest to the people that are just getting started or have like just the hobby horse? They love their horse and they just want to go ride them and bring them back. Is there something that they should maybe be doing to kind of help increase the longevity of even that horse, even though it's not getting the workload of like our performance horses are?
Right. So even the day-to-day horses, because I was one of those kids, I was the 4-H kid initially when I started out. I spent about a year doing the 4-H, and even my horse in the 4-H every once in a while would, colic, or there'd be some kind of weird thing that would come up with an abscess. And, that's where back then we were a little bit more limited in what we could do because it was, the early 90s, late 80s, 1980s. But we were limited in what we could do. We didn't have as many options as we do now. And so I always make sure that when I'm communicating or I'm helping or mentoring somebody who has an at-home farm or an at-home hobby farm, that I let them know that there's so many options out there that they can choose from, and making sure that they get their horse's nutrition correct. And if they're struggling with colic, that they change their feed program a little bit, find something that might be a better choice. We feed 4 times a day here. And so our incidence of colic is much lower. When I have a horse with an abscess, obviously it seems like the go-to would just be some Banamine and some old school salt packs on their feet. But I found that, using the Summit for that to help reduce the inflammation, just it's pretty incredible. So I personally really, really like with the, I feel like the people who own horses and they're at their home, that they put all their time and effort, and like that horse it's become a member of their family,
Yeah.
right? And so it's really, really important to them, just like it's important to me, how that horse is cared for and how it's treated, and that they're not having to call the vet every week for a little thing here and a little thing there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Those vet bills, they add up. I think I'm a VIP, actually. Thank you, Colorado State University Vet Hospital, for putting me on the VIP list over the last year.
Did you get a gold card?
I think so. They came out to check, just to do like a physical on one of my horses to get to go to the Appaloosa World Show last year, and they were just checking her hocks and stuff to see if she needed to be injected, and they gave me I got a free pass because I didn't have to pay for part of it, because I've given him a lot of money thanks to Decker. I think he owns a stall there himself.
Right.
My horse, his name's probably on it. But yeah, it's true. They are family. I mean, being as cold as it is right now, and like I'm in Colorado and you're in Washington, we've had this crazy weather. I like jokingly was telling my boyfriend I was going to bring the horses inside. I was like, they're family. They want to watch TV and sit in front of the fireplace, but it might be a little crowded.
For sure.
Right.
For sure.
Well, thank you, Heidi, for taking time today to talk with us and give a lot of really good nuggets to everyone. And I obviously want to have you back to talk about a few more things, but anybody, if you guys have questions or you want some information, just shoot me a message and I can get information from Heidi, and we'll get right back to you. But thank you guys for joining us. Again, thank you for taking time out of your day to chat with us. And I truly, truly appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate you. And I look forward to reading more about your blog too.
Thank you. Anything, always horses.